Allen Dulles, the man behind the shadows, 11 shocking facts. Allen Dulles, a pivotal figure in American intelligence history, served as the first civilian director of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, from 1953 to 1961. His tenure was marked by a series of controversial decisions and operations that have had a lasting impact on international relations and the CIA's reputation. Here are 11 of the most scandalous and fascinating facts about Allen Dulles, shedding light on the complexities and challenges of espionage during the Cold War era. Fact number 1. Personal life and familial dynamics. Allen Dulles's personal life and family background were as complex and intriguing as his professional endeavors. Born on April 7, 1893, in Watertown, New York, into a family with a distinguished public service record, Dulles was predestined for a life in government and intelligence. His marriage to Clover Todd in 1920 was notable, not just for the union itself but for the social and political connections it brought, enhancing his influence within Washington, D.C.'s corridors of power. Together, they had 3 children, and while Dulles's career often kept him away from home, his family was an essential part of his life. However, his commitment to his work and the secretive nature of his profession placed strains on his personal relationships, as did his rumored affairs, which have been a source of speculation and controversy. Despite these challenges, Dulles's family remained a central aspect of his identity, providing a counterbalance to his life of espionage and intrigue. Number 2. Operation Ajax, the overthrow of Iran's prime minister. On August 19, 1953, under the direction of Allen Dulles, the CIA initiated Operation Ajax, leading to the overthrow of Iran's democratically elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. The operation was primarily motivated by Mossadegh's intent to nationalize the Iranian oil industry, which threatened the interests of British oil companies and, by extension, global oil markets that the US was keen on stabilizing. The operation successfully reinstated Mohammad Reza Pahlavi as the Shah of Iran, dramatically altering the political landscape of the Middle East and sowing seeds of anti-American sentiment that would culminate in the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The orchestration of Operation Ajax set a precedent for future CIA interventions worldwide and remains a critical study point for understanding the impact of US foreign policy in the Middle East. Number 3. The Bay of Pigs invasion. The Bay of Pigs invasion, launched on April 17, 1961, was a failed military operation aimed at overthrowing Fidel Castro's communist government in Cuba. Dulles, as the CIA director, was instrumental in planning and executing the invasion, which was carried out by a force of Cuban exiles backed by the US. The invasion's failure was a humiliating defeat for the United States, significantly straining US-Cuba relations and pushing Castro closer to the Soviet Union. Dulles's role in the botched invasion was a key factor in President John F. Kennedy's decision to force him into retirement later that year, marking a significant downturn in Dulles's career and a notable example of the risks involved in covert foreign interventions. Number 4. Project MKUltra. Initiated in the early 1950s under Dulles's directive, Project MKUltra was a top-secret CIA program that sought to develop mind control techniques for use against the Soviet bloc and other perceived threats. The program involved the administration of drugs, notably LSD, along with other methods such as electroshock therapy and hypnosis, on unwitting human subjects, including American citizens. The ethical breaches and violations of human rights associated with MKUltra were exposed in the 1970s, following investigations by the Church Committee, leading to widespread public outrage and a re-evaluation of CIA practices. MKUltra remains one of the most glaring examples of overreach and ethical violation in the history of American intelligence services. Number 5. Spying on American citizens. During the height of the Cold War and the McCarthy era, Dulles authorized covert surveillance operations targeting American citizens on US soil. These operations aimed to identify and monitor political activists, journalists, and other individuals deemed subversive or sympathetic to communist ideologies. This breach of civil liberties contributed to the erosion of public trust in the government and the intelligence community, spotlighting the delicate balance between national security interests and the rights of citizens. The revelations about these surveillance activities fueled debates about privacy, freedom of expression, and the extent of government oversight. Number 6. The Kennedy Feud. Allen Dulles' tenure as CIA director under President John F. Kennedy was marked by escalating tensions, culminating in the Bay of Pigs invasion's failure in April 1961. This botched operation, aimed at overthrowing Fidel Castro's regime in Cuba, significantly soured Kennedy's trust in the CIA and in Dulles personally. Kennedy felt the CIA, under Dulles' leadership, had misled him about the invasion's prospects, leading to Dulles' forced resignation in November 1961. Despite his removal, Dulles maintained a strong presence in Washington's intelligence and policymaking circles, and his complex relationship with Kennedy continued to fuel speculation and controversy, especially in the aftermath of Kennedy's assassination in 1963. Number 7. Involvement in the Warren Commission. Following President Kennedy's assassination on November 22, 1963, Allen Dulles was appointed to the Warren Commission by President Lyndon B. Johnson. The commission was tasked with investigating the assassination. Dulles' role on the commission was contentious due to his recent dismissal by Kennedy and his extensive intelligence background, raising concerns about potential biases and conflicts of interest. These factors have fueled ongoing conspiracy theories and debates about the Commission's conclusions regarding Lee Harvey Oswald's role as the lone assassin, with critics questioning the thoroughness and impartiality of the investigation. Number 8. Negotiations with Nazi war criminals. During the final stages of World War II, Allen Dulles, serving as the head of the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, station in Bern, Switzerland, engaged in covert negotiations with representatives of the Nazi regime. One of the most notable instances involved discussions with SS General Karl Wolff, a high-ranking Nazi official, in an operation known as Operation Sunrise. These negotiations aimed at securing the surrender of German forces in Italy, bypassing Hitler's orders for a fight to the death. While the operation was successful in saving lives towards the end of the war, Dulles' willingness to negotiate with war criminals and facilitate their escape in exchange for intelligence and cooperation sparked controversy. Critics argue that these actions allowed individuals responsible for horrendous war crimes to evade justice, highlighting ethical compromises in intelligence operations. Number 9. Involvement in the Congo crisis. The early 1960s Congo crisis, a complex power struggle following the Democratic Republic of the Congo's independence from Belgium in 1960, saw significant CIA involvement under Dulles' leadership. Concerned by Patrice Lumumba's perceived pro-Soviet leanings and his nationalist agenda, Dulles authorized operations to destabilize his government. This culminated in Lumumba's assassination on January 17, 1961, an act that had long-lasting repercussions on the Congo's political stability and contributed to the prolonged conflict in the region. The CIA's actions, aimed at preventing Soviet influence in Africa, underscore the Cold War era's geopolitical calculations, often at the expense of newly independent nations' sovereignty and democratic processes. Number 10. The U-2 incident. One of the most tense Cold War episodes under Dulles' CIA directorship occurred on May 1, 1960, when a U-2 spy plane piloted by Francis Gary Powers was shot down over Soviet territory. Despite initial U.S. denials, the Soviet Union produced incontrovertible evidence of espionage, including the captured pilot and the plane's wreckage. The incident, occurring just days before a planned summit between President Eisenhower and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, significantly heightened U.S.-Soviet tensions. The public exposure of the U.S.'s aerial espionage activities not only embarrassed the Eisenhower administration but also marked a significant setback in the gradual thawing of Cold War relations, demonstrating the high-stakes risks associated with intelligence operations. Number 11. Allen Dulles' final years. After his career in public service, Allen Dulles spent his last years engaged in writing and reflecting on his experiences. Despite being removed from the forefront of American intelligence, he remained an influential figure in the shadows, offering counsel to those in the intelligence and foreign policy communities. Dulles passed away on January 29, 1969, after suffering from influenza, at the age of 75. His contributions to shaping the CIA and U.S. foreign policy during the Cold War are undeniable, yet they are also marred by controversies and debates over the ethical implications of his actions.